Loneliness can twist a man's mind without him even realizing it. It quietly drains confidence, discipline, and purpose. But according to Stoic philosophy, solitude is not the enemy, the lack of mastery over it is. Today, we're uncovering 9 brutal mistakes that lonely men make every single day, often without noticing, and how these errors slowly destroy their potential. If you want to transform loneliness into inner strength, clarity, and self-respect, this video is your wake-up call. Loneliness has a strange way of reshaping a man from the inside out. It rarely announces itself. Instead, it creeps into everyday habits, subtle thoughts, quiet doubts, until suddenly a man notices he no longer thinks or behaves like he once did. The first brutal mistake lonely men make is allowing the mind to drift without discipline. The Stoics taught that the mind, left untrained, becomes a dangerous place. Marcus Aurelius warned that an undisciplined mind can wander into places that cause pain, fear, or weakness. And lonely men, without even realizing it, often let their thoughts run wild. Overthinking becomes their daily companion. They replay old conversations, old failures, imagined criticisms, or possible future disasters. Instead of using solitude to strengthen clarity, they use it to magnify insecurity. Thoughts spiral, self-doubt multiplies, action disappears. A man stuck in this mental loop may feel busy, but he is accomplishing nothing. His mind becomes a battlefield, and without discipline, he loses before the fight even starts. The second brutal mistake lonely men fall into is seeking distraction instead of direction. When a man feels emotionally empty, he starts craving quick relief. Scrolling social media for hours, jumping between videos, binge-watching shows, chasing meaningless conversations, or using temporary pleasure to escape discomfort. The Stoics believed that desire without purpose weakens the soul. Seneca wrote that most men are not unhappy because they suffer, but because they waste their time. A lonely man often seeks anything that numbs him, but numbness is not healing. It is slow self-destruction. Every distraction pulls him away from who he could become. Instead of building discipline, he builds dependency. Instead of improving himself, he becomes a consumer of other people's lives. Instead of confronting his own challenges, he hides from them. And every moment he escapes, he teaches his mind to run from discomfort instead of overcoming it. Another mistake is neglecting physical health, a silent yet devastating error. When a man feels isolated, he often stops caring for his body, eating whatever is easiest, skipping workouts, sleeping poorly, ignoring grooming, or living without routine. But the Stoics believed that the body is the tool through which we interact with the world. Epictetus said that a man cannot serve himself or others if he is physically weak or careless. Physical discipline is not vanity, it is self-respect. A neglected body leads to a neglected mind. When a man is out of shape, tired, unhealthy, or unfocused, he becomes more fragile emotionally as well. Confidence fades, drive disappears, stress rises. Strength is not just physical, it's psychological. And physical discipline strengthens both. The fourth brutal mistake lonely men make is living without goals. A man without a target becomes a man without meaning. When there is no direction, the days blur together. There is no urgency, no mission, no clear purpose pulling him forward. And without purpose, loneliness transforms from a temporary feeling into a permanent identity. Stoicism teaches that a man must always move toward something: virtue, discipline, personal mastery. Even small goals create momentum: reading daily, learning a skill, improving finances, building a routine. A man with goals is difficult to break. A man without goals breaks himself. Loneliness becomes dangerous not because a man is alone, but because he stops progressing. He stops building. He stops demanding greatness from himself. Without direction, a man drifts, and drifting leads to stagnation. The final mistake in this block is believing that loneliness is a curse, instead of seeing it as a forge. When a man interprets solitude as failure, everything becomes heavier. He loses confidence. He feels inferior. He begins to believe that something is wrong with him. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Solitude is where the greatest men sharpen their minds, build their strength, and create their identity. A man who cannot stand strong alone will eventually collapse around others. Loneliness hurts, yes, but it can also transform. It creates space for discipline, reflection, and growth. A man must decide whether solitude will weaken him or forge him into someone unshakable. One of the most damaging mistakes lonely men make is depending on others to feel complete. Many believe that happiness will finally arrive when someone enters their life, when they make new friends, meet the right woman, or receive external validation. But this mindset contradicts one of the core Stoic principles. True peace comes from within, not from someone else's presence. A man who requires others to feel worthy becomes emotionally fragile. He becomes reactive. He becomes easy to manipulate. And worse, he loses control over his inner world. The Stoics warn that whatever controls your emotions controls you. When your happiness depends on people, circumstances, or attention, you lose your freedom. Another brutal mistake is romanticizing the past. Lonely men often replay old memories, relationships that ended, friendships that faded, opportunities they missed, versions of themselves they've outgrown. The past becomes a trap. It fools them into believing that their best days already happened. Stoicism teaches that dwelling on the past is like trying to hold water in your hand. It slips away, leaving only frustration. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we must let go of what cannot be changed and focus instead on what must be done now. A man who idolizes the past stops creating a future. He lives inside memories instead of possibilities. And slowly, without realizing, he becomes a ghost in his own life. The sixth mistake is believing that solitude equals worthlessness. Many men think being alone means they are unlovable, undesirable, or behind in life. But this belief is not truth. It is distortion. Stoicism sees solitude as one of the greatest teachers. In quiet moments, a man learns who he truly is. He observes his thoughts. He confronts his weaknesses. He discovers his values. Solitude is not a punishment. It is preparation. A man who becomes whole alone becomes unstoppable among others. Meanwhile, a man who fears solitude becomes dependent, anxious, and easily unbalanced. Being comfortable with yourself is not optional. It is foundational. The seventh mistake lonely men make is isolating out of fear, not intention. There is a difference between choosing solitude to grow and hiding from the world because you fear judgment or rejection. Many men avoid social situations not because they prefer quiet, but because they feel inadequate, unsure, or ashamed. Stoicism teaches that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is action in the presence of fear. When a man avoids everything that makes him uncomfortable, his world becomes smaller. His confidence weakens. His anxiety grows. What begins as, "I just want to be alone," slowly turns into, "I don't know how to face the world anymore." Avoidance builds prisons. Exposure builds strength. Even simple actions, greeting a stranger, joining a group, starting a conversation, going to the gym, gradually rebuild confidence. Stoics believe that character is forged in action, not in isolation. A man who confronts his fears becomes resilient. A man who avoids them becomes fragile. Another mistake is over-idealizing relationships. Lonely men imagine that finding a partner will instantly solve their insecurities, heal their wounds, or fix their emotional void. But relationships do not heal you. They reveal you. The Stoic view is clear. You must build strength within yourself first. Otherwise, you bring neediness into the relationship, and neediness destroys connection. If you rely on another person to rescue you, you will drain them and sabotage the relationship before it even begins. The ninth mistake in this block is forgetting to cultivate self-respect. Lonely men sometimes tolerate situations, habits, or people that drain their energy simply because they fear being alone. They lower their standards, they neglect their boundaries, they silence their truth. But a man who does not respect himself cannot expect respect from others. Stoicism teaches that your worth does not come from the approval of the crowd, but from the strength of your character. Every time you choose convenience over principles, you weaken your soul. Loneliness is not the enemy. Self-neglect is. A man who learns to face himself, discipline himself, and strengthen himself uses solitude as fuel. A man who ignores himself becomes a prisoner of his own mind. Another brutal mistake lonely men make is abandoning their sense of purpose. Every man needs a mission, something that pulls him out of bed, something worth fighting for, something that demands his effort. Without a mission, a man becomes directionless. Days slip by unnoticed. Motivation fades. His mind drifts into pessimism. The Stoics believed that a man without purpose is like a ship without a captain, easily pushed by the winds of fear, doubt, and circumstance. Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." A lonely man without purpose doesn't just lose time, he loses himself. Purpose does not need to be grand. It can be discipline, learning, building a skill, improving health, working on a long-term vision, or becoming more virtuous. What matters is movement, forward, steady, intentional. A man with purpose can endure loneliness because he understands that solitude is not emptiness, it is space to build. But a man who lives without purpose allows loneliness to devour him from the inside. Another common mistake is allowing emotions to drive decisions. When a man feels lonely, he becomes vulnerable to impulsive choices, entering unhealthy relationships out of desperation, spending money he does not have, chasing quick dopamine, or abandoning his responsibilities for temporary pleasure. Stoicism teaches that emotions are natural, but they must not rule the mind. A man who acts on impulse becomes a slave to his feelings. Epictetus warned that the man who cannot control his emotions will be controlled by them in every moment. Emotional discipline is not coldness, it is clarity. It allows a man to separate feeling from action. It frees him from regret. It helps him think long-term instead of seeking instant relief. A lonely man must understand this truth. The moment he lets emotions dictate his behavior, he loses honor, strength, and direction. Another damaging mistake lonely men make is forgetting to invest in their growth. When a man isolates, he often stagnates. He stops learning, stops improving, stops challenging himself. He repeats the same habits daily with no evolution. But growth is not optional for the Stoic mind. It is essential. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to become better than yesterday, not for praise, but for duty. Growth does not require perfect conditions. It requires commitment. Reading books, learning skills, developing discipline, improving communication, upgrading your mindset. These actions slowly rebuild identity. A lonely man who invests in growth becomes stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. A lonely man who avoids growth becomes bitter, entitled, and fragile. Another mistake is ignoring the power of routine. Routine forms the structure that the mind uses to stay stable. Lonely men often live without order, sleeping at random times, eating irregularly, waking without intention, drifting through the day with no plan. This lack of structure fuels anxiety and confusion. The Stoics believed that discipline is freedom. Routine does not restrict a man, it liberates him. It keeps him grounded, sharp, and focused. A strong morning routine, physical movement, time for reflection, and daily goals can completely transform a man's emotional stability. The next mistake lonely men make is failing to build resilience. When you're alone, life hits harder. Stress feels heavier. Fear grows faster. But resilience is not built through comfort. It is built through struggle, responsibility, and consistency. Stoicism teaches that the obstacle is not a punishment. It is the path. A man who accepts hardship as training becomes unbreakable. A man who avoids hardship becomes delicate. Resilience grows when a man faces reality instead of escaping it, embraces challenges instead of complaining, and treats discomfort as a mentor rather than an enemy. Solitude provides the perfect environment for this transformation, but only if a man chooses to use it. Finally, lonely men often make the mistake of believing their value depends on external results. They think they must achieve something impressive to prove their worth. They compare themselves to others, friends who are in relationships, co-workers who are advancing, people online who appear happy and successful. Stoicism destroys this illusion. A man's value does not come from what he owns, what he achieves, or who approves of him. It comes from his character, from the discipline he practices, from the integrity he maintains, from the courage he displays when no one is watching. Loneliness reveals whether a man's worth is built on sand or on stone. If he builds his value on shallow metrics, loneliness will crush him. But if he builds his value on virtue, discipline, and self-respect, loneliness will strengthen him. In the end, solitude is a test, a fire, a forge, and the man who walks through it with intention emerges tougher, clearer, and more powerful than he ever imagined. A powerful yet often overlooked mistake lonely men make is believing that their situation is permanent. Loneliness feels heavy, and when a man sits in it long enough, he begins to assume it will be his reality forever. This belief quietly kills ambition, weakens discipline, and drains hope. But the Stoics taught that no emotional state is permanent. Not joy, not sadness, not fear, not loneliness. Everything is in motion. Everything changes. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that life flows like a river, always moving, always shifting, always temporary. When a man believes he is stuck, he stops acting. But when he sees loneliness as a season, he moves with purpose again. Nothing weakens a man more than hopelessness, and nothing empowers him more than remembering that life is not fixed. It is fluid. Another mistake lonely men often fall into is trying to escape their inner world instead of mastering it. Many men drown themselves in noise to avoid hearing their own thoughts. Music blasting all day, constant scrolling, endless videos, games, or stimulation that keeps the mind distracted but never satisfied. Yet Stoicism teaches the opposite approach. Enter the silence, confront yourself, and use solitude to strengthen self-awareness. Seneca wrote that a man must retire into himself to find peace. But modern men avoid this inner retreat. They fear the discomfort of facing their patterns, their wounds, and their truths. But the man who avoids his inner world becomes controlled by it. The man who masters it becomes powerful beyond measure. Another brutal mistake is allowing other people's opinions to shape their identity. When a man is alone, he becomes more sensitive to external criticism, or even the possibility of it. He worries what people think. He hesitates to take risks. He fears rejection. He hides his personality. But the Stoics train the mind to detach from the judgment of others. Epictetus said that the opinions of people should no more concern you than their breaths. When a man's self-worth depends on applause or approval, he becomes a puppet, his value pulled by strings he does not control. True strength comes from internal validation, doing what is right, not what is popular, living by principles, not by the expectations of others. A man who frees himself from judgment becomes unstoppable. Another mistake lonely men make is rejecting small opportunities for connection, expecting dramatic changes instead. Many wait for the perfect moment to socialize, the perfect group, the perfect conversation, the perfect environment. But life rarely delivers perfection. Stoicism teaches that progress is built through small steps, consistent, simple actions repeated daily. A greeting, a short conversation, going to the gym, joining a class, showing up consistently. These small social exposures rebuild confidence. But lonely men often reject them because they seem insignificant. They expect massive breakthroughs when what they need are small victories. A man who waits for ideal conditions will always wait. A man who acts in imperfect conditions transforms. A deeper, more hidden mistake is letting loneliness turn into resentment. Some men begin to feel bitterness toward people who have relationships, friendships, or success. They compare. They envy. They judge. They build a quiet hostility toward the world. But resentment corrodes the soul. It steals energy, joy, and clarity. The Stoics believed that envy is a sign of inner confusion, a failure to understand what truly matters. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to begrudge others their blessings, because someone else's path has nothing to do with yours. A man who resents others poisons himself. A man who focuses on his own path grows stronger, calmer, and more disciplined. Another mistake lonely men make is forgetting the importance of contribution. Loneliness often pushes men into self-absorption. All thoughts revolve around their pain, their past, their fears, their disappointments. But Stoicism teaches that virtue is action, and one of the highest actions is service, helping others, adding value, practicing kindness, offering support. Even small acts of contribution create purpose. They also break the cycle of isolation. A man who contributes becomes useful, and a man who feels useful no longer feels empty. Contribution pulls a man out of his mind and places him back into the world. Finally, lonely men often commit the mistake of waiting for motivation instead of creating discipline. Motivation is emotional. It rises and falls. It is unreliable. Discipline, however, is the foundation of a strong man. Stoicism teaches that actions should not be dependent on desires or moods. You act because it is right, because it is necessary, because it aligns with your principles. Lonely men often say, "I'll start when I feel better," but this feeling rarely arrives. The paradox is that action creates the emotional clarity they are waiting for. Discipline gives structure. Structure gives control. Control restores confidence, and confidence dissolves loneliness. In solitude, a man discovers who he truly is, but only if he chooses discipline over despair, growth over escape, and clarity over chaos. Loneliness is not a sentence. It is an opportunity to rebuild the man you were always meant to become. In the end, loneliness is not an enemy. It's a mirror. It reflects what still needs to be built inside you. Most men try to escape that reflection. They drown it in distractions, hide from it in comfort, or blame the world for what they refuse to face. But the Stoics taught something deeper, something timeless. The man who conquers himself becomes unconquerable. If you've recognized even a single mistake from this video, that's good. It means awareness is awakening, and awareness is the first spark of transformation. Stop waiting for someone to save you. Stop hoping life will magically change. Stop carrying choices that keep you small, invisible, and tired. Ask yourself, what is one action I can take today that my future self will thank me for? What comfort do I need to sacrifice so real growth can begin? What truth have I avoided because it feels uncomfortable? Because nothing will change until you do. Remember this. A man who disciplines his mind becomes stronger than any rejection. A man who controls his emotions becomes wiser than any argument. A man who walks alone with purpose eventually becomes a man others want to follow. Your loneliness is not a prison. It's training. It's the fire forging a stronger, calmer, more focused version of you. If you want companionship, build character. If you want respect, build discipline. If you want peace, build emotional mastery. The world does not give these things freely, but it always rewards the man who decides to rise. So breathe, reset, rebuild. And when you look back months from now, you'll realize this moment, right now, was the turning point. If you found value in this mindset, support the mission, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with a man who needs it today. Because wisdom only has power when it's passed forward. And you, yes you, can be the reason another man wakes up and chooses to improve his life. Stay focused, stay calm, and remember, the Stoic mind is the strongest weapon a lonely man can carry.